Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday Night Live. We are here tonight with this new guy, the new Axial Gilamon. Gilamon or Gilamon, whatever floats your boat. You call it what you want to call it. But tonight, what my goal will be is we've got the truck in here. We'll look at some stuff. I am going to mount the other two of the new 2.2 BBW wheels and Proline Swampers. I hate Swampers. It's a personal thing, not the performance. Performance-wise, I think these are going to be a great tire. I don't like the look of Swampers. I never have. Personal preference thing, like since childhood. But they are a well-performing tire, so that's why we're going to run them. Now, they look noticeably smaller. They are not. They are basically the same size as the stock tires. Like, tire for tire, they're nearly the same. Hair shorter, ever so slightly. But just barely. So tonight we're going to get the other two mounted. I've got the wheels built already. We set to mount the tires. Now, I forgot that these tires were tires of old, right? These tires have been around for a long time, which means that they are awfully painful to mount onto the 2.2 wheels. If I was running the wider 1.2 inch wide wheels, it would be easier, but I didn't feel like that was the style here. So I decided to go this way. Now, I also mounted the narrowest Vanquish hub, 225 SLW hub, and that brought the track width in just like a little over 1/4 of an inch. Took it from about 12.3 to just over 12.1 maybe. Would a zero offset rim go over the knuckle? Maybe, depending. Yeah, no, you could. I think you could get it in with a zero offset wheel. You could get it closer. It would still clear with, a 1/16 of an inch to spare, I think. Now, I've been working on this truck on this bench for the last night or whatever. And so there's like sandy crap all over it now from the tires. Whatever. Again, no Nicole, weak. So yeah, super swampers suck on real trucks. They howl so loud going down the road. My dislike for swampers goes back to my youth and people. Like, I lived in Nebraska, everybody wanted swampers or boggers. Like, that was, never liked them. Fine though. They work well in RC. It's hard to argue. I'm curious to see if this thing ends up selling well. All the running videos we have left a lot to be desired, at least with those stock tires. Yeah, I felt so. Of course, you don't get to know what other people are going to say about a truck when you put a video out. You generally can assume people are going to say nice things, and I like this truck. I like the concept, and I actually like the truck itself. It reminds me a lot of the the original 2.2 Wraith. For those of you that were around then, if you remember when we all got those, whatever it was, and you remember a stock Wraith. The thing was, a stock Wraith was terrible. Like, it was but back then, like, there wasn't many trucks you could buy that you would pull out of the box and they were a good RC. Just nothing we had was good. We just, everything you got, and then you slowly replaced and changed every part about it until in the end you could tell it what the vehicle was when it started, but there wasn't much left from it. So this like reminds me of that kind of. I don't think that we're going to be replacing everything about this truck. I don't. I think that it's much better than that, but it reminds me of it in some of the ways like when I was driving it. Because driving it, the first drive was not a rewarding experience, I will say. I was left a little bit like I have not experienced that in quite some time. It just it just didn't hook. It was doing it wouldn't do lines that that my or that a stock base camp was capable of. Now I think that the overdrive actually was also one thing that really maybe held it back. I think the stock tires, as much as they aren't good on the rock here, I wasn't in overly cold weather. It was rock that I was super familiar with. I've done videos there with stock trucks before. And then it just wasn't doing it. So the overdrive and stock tires was just making it wash and not climb. And that's why I was like, I bet if I put on new tires, this will feel like a whole different truck. The shocks were still pretty unloady, but not so bad that it was making it the biggest thing I noticed. Phoenix, what are you doing? Thank you very much. That was very nice. Oh, I don't have the other thing open. I need to do that. Congrats to whoever got the gifted membership from Phoenix. I don't have the other thing open. So I'm gonna. Sorry, I just needed to do this and get the pop out chat. It makes it a lot easier to see what's going on. Out. Also, Phoenix gifted memberships. Before the live streams, I do a 30-minute like members pre-stream. So it's just like, some other a little bit more live, kind of go over some BS in here and there. Pretty good. But I think that with these new tires, stock shocks exactly how they are, this thing is going to do worlds better. I'm going to take it to the exact same spot. Our weather isn't that much different. We got some rain again, but whatever. And I think that is going to make it really good. Josh, where did you film the Gilamon video? I felt at Folsom Lake by the boat ramp area. So right by the, what is it called? It's just like the Folsom boat launch or something like that. I don't really remember exactly what it's called. I think you just Google Folsom boat launch and see if it'll get you there. Beals, no, I think it's literally just called like the boat launch or something. Folsom Point boat ramp. Folsom Point is what it's called. I think the helium will be better when you can have all the fun stuff it can offer as a buggy, like rear steer and digs. I enjoy clicking buttons, whether or not they're doing something. That's the other thing is that I would have liked to have been able to use like the cutting brake. It, like I said in the video, it worked better than I expected. It was pretty reliable, and but it was hard to drive one-handed and film. So I couldn't just do it as much. The other thing I would like to do tonight is figure out if I can bind it to the IXSR that I have here, since I haven't used it. And I think that it should bind up. Hopefully I'm correct. I may need some help from you Spectrum users. The Folsom Gate. Where I'm not doing Geoguesser right now, but go into Google Maps and I'll show you. Google Maps. Folsom Point. Yeah. Cam mount on your head? Absolutely not. It's so terrible. I hate those videos when they're so up high. It drives me nuts. I just can't. I don't like radio mounted, and I don't like head mounted. So here is where I'm talking about. This is Natoma. So here's the dam right there, Folsom Dam. Here is the prison Folsom Prison, Johnny Cash. And right over here is Folsom Point boat ramp. And there are them rocks. So you can park in and around and go from there. This is where I filmed my optic release video. So, or the optic kit version video. That's where I filmed it. Tom Bajek, thank you very much. I ordered one. I'm the local guinea pig, Warren County Crawlers Jr. Do you think a better servo will make the ASD lock and unlock more reliably? I have heard that so there's a couple of things. They're going to offer heavier springs for the ASD, and the spring is what unlocks the cutting brake and gets it back into drive mode. But they have a light spring in there because that stock servo is only capable of so much. So if you go to a heavier servo, you can go to a heavier spring, and then yes, both will work. And also, Tom, I saw your guys' hats, and that is goddamn ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. Parking lot within 20 feet. Check. Yeah, no kidding, right? It's just like hard to beat. Apex Predator, $3 super sticker. Much appreciated. Caleb Bailey became a member. Thank you very much, Caleb. I ordered a red one. Jellymon, Jelly Roll, whatever you call it. Geo Fine game already. I've been playing it a lot. Maybe we'll play it at the end. Where was that crawling spot when I was there? Nathan, I wanted to go up into the mountains. I took Nathan up into the mountains and made him absolutely huff climbing up there. I suppose we could have gone there, but No, this was probably underwater then. This is only good in the winter. So what's the odds of a kit version? Man, I don't know. I don't have much faith in it. If I was going to roll the dice and bet on a kit version, I would take the no. I would take the no if I was guessing. I would say we're not going to see one. And I would put I would give it to the end of the calendar year. I'd put $100 on it. So, was the Capra a kit or the Bouncer? The Capra was a kit. The very first release of the Capra was a kit. The very first release of the SCX3 was a kit. Then let's see. The SCX Pro kit only. The Rift was a kit. It's been discontinued. The SCX3 never a kit. So yeah, that's easy. You'd say a kit of this long before another SCX6. I think that's one. The Wraith wasn't it? Yes, Wraith was a kit. The Wraith was a kit later, though. It did not come as a kit initially. The first Wraith was RTR. And I think the kit version of the Wraith came out quite a bit later, and it might have been the Spawn kit. That might have been the only Wraith kit that we saw, if I can actually think back. Yeah, the Rift was RTR first, then kit. That is true. So the 1/8 seems like an odd scale to go for. I think that is Now, I don't know if I would say by putting that scale on it, it's like deceiving for people because like call the Wraith or Bomber. Those were always just called a 10th scale truck, even though they were 2.2s, very similar in wheelbase. On the Bomber, the Wraith was shorter. You know, very similar in wheelbase, not quite as wide. Yeah, I don't know. It's I think the features dictated the scale. That Art was saying the same thing. I think the size byproduct of the cutting brake. Well, I mean, portals would have been a part of that as well, right? Adding the portals. Now, I actually haven't taken this axle apart. Maybe we should do that. Does it dwarf a 1/10? No. I did bring up some other cars you might have been familiar with. I brought an optic up here to show. So this and an optic. The optic overall length of the chassis, front, or this is the back. This is the front. Back to front, you should always go front to back, though. Front to back, 16 inches. The length of this chassis, 16.5 inches. But they're scaled very differently. This is scaled with a lot more tail section and even a longer hood versus this. Like this would be scaled off of a buggy chassis that would be much smaller than a chassis like this when they were finished cars. So, you know, I would say that this is scaled pretty appropriately. I like this kind of the scale of that. The length and width of the chassis, though, is not much different than this. It's just kind of how that works. But no, it doesn't dwarf it, right? So the scale is, I don't know. I feel like it trips people out more than anything because it's got a 550 motor in there. Now, I said I'm not planning to install the Fusion in this video. I've got a Fusion 8. So Fusion 8, it's already out of the box. Now I'm not going to install it on here because my plan is to do it in an edited video. So that's why I'm not planning to. I'm going to put the tires on because everybody's seen nobody wants to watch a video of somebody mounting tires. I mean, if you debate it, just tape it. We're taking Cody's tagline job title away from him. Scale is whatever it looks best beside, I guess. I mean, this buggy wheelbase is 14.5 inches, right? No, 14 3/4 inches. 14.75. I thought it was 14.5, but 14.75 for sure. You know, but yeah, but that would be too much. Are you going to do the front and rear trans dig? I mean, probably. Why not? Right? I'll probably do. That's funny. I'm watching this now. You can mount them. You don't need to watch me mount. I mean, I'm going to mount them tonight, but we're going to be talking a bunch of other stuff. Drivers are terrible. The heads do not look right at all. The heads don't look right. Put the Jimmys or the Billy. The Jimmys is not here. It's at work, but I do have the Rockabilly here. So now the Rockabilly is scaled after a buggy that would be more similar to this size. You know, so that's not a great, I mean, or that is a decent comparison, I guess, but it's hard to tell with buggies, right? Because they're all kind of like, they'll kind of get hidden behind the tires and the wheels. But I guess if we put them kind of gives you a look. they're both sitting droop, the 4.75 tires versus 5.4 tires. You can tell the height difference, but the Rockabilly is sitting on straight axles versus portals too. That's a difference. I guess these are both 2-seat buggies, so that's similar. A little bit more cargo area on the back of the Rockabilly. Wow, this show is about RC sometimes. Not often. Not often, but on special occasions, we're here for it. How long are those shocks? Let's see. So compressed, fully compressed, we're looking at roughly well, that's kind of hard to tell there. 97, 98 millimeters, fully compressed. Fully extended, they are closer to 130. It's hard to tell because it's got these goofy ass shock angle screws coming out that point down, and that I can't let. That is not. I don't know why. I don't know how the shock screw thing happened. Yeah. Throw the caliper on the body. OD. Okay, so I brought my toolbox up here, and in this studio, the toolbox is on my right side. And I flipped the drawers left to right, so my tools that I need are on left. But the top drawer is still the way that it used to be. So like all the tools that I most commonly grab are still on way over here. So I gotta get that figured out. So the OD of the bodies of these shocks are 12 millimeter. So pretty standard. So 12 millimeter there. Why are the front links bent like that, I wonder? So I think it's, oops, that's not the one I meant to hit. I'm going to do, I did this a little bit in the members pre-stream. The second camera is back. But, so the front links, you can see it goes straight and then bends in. See it right there and right there. Now, it's because it's dodging the drive shaft. That is why. It's 100% the reason that link is bent like that. And I'd mentioned it in the review. It's one of those things that like I would expect to see, or not be surprised to see on a custom build. You're working with parts that are out there and you're just making stuff work. Sometimes you put a bend in a link like that to make it happen. In a ground up car, I would just not expect it. And that's what this is a ground up car. So that's why that surprises me to see it that way. I don't like when links are done with the flat like that and the screws from the top. For a link mount like that, I feel like they should be double shear. It wouldn't have been that big of a deal to do that way. So bandwidth just halved. This is locally processed this way. Thank you very much. I wonder what spring OD fits inside. Should we take one of the shocks off? Take it apart? See what the fluid situations and things like that are. Do I have shop rags in here? Yes, I do. So let's break down one of these shocks. God, seriously, tires. They were like this on the other ones. So tight. Like, super worried I was going to blow out a thin wall driver. I was going to grab my big, like, nitro 8 scale. So it is a 5mm or an 8, an M5 thread on the stub. So it uses an 8mm driver. So make sure you're aware of that. One thing I didn't do is check if those nuts fit in a regular hub. I bet that they don't. So let's grab a 475 hub. Nope. So if you're using SLW hubs on wheels, you need non-flanged wheel nuts. Make sure you note that. Or go to 225 hubs on your wheels. There you go. Note that for your shopping list if you plan to change. You either need non-flange nuts, which we sell on the Vanquish site, or 225 hubs. I went to 225 hubs just because I wanted to keep the track width as narrow as possible. So that wasn't an issue, but that's very important to note. So yeah, anyway, what were we doing? Taking apart a shock. There we go. So let's find my drivers. Take apart the back axle, see that ASD in all its glory. We might be able to get that done tonight. We were just talking about to get on geoguessing. All right, fine. We're geoguessing at the end. We'll crank up the difficulty and we'll do a no move, no moving. We can do the pant. You can spin around, but no moving. So we got to go on pure gut. How is that tool so quiet? What is it? A DeWalt 8-volt gyro. I have multiple 2mm, 2.5mm, 1.5mm. That way, you don't have to do all the switching around the bits. Okay. Shop rags. All right, so let's do a little adjusting here. God bless it. You should bring your in-laws for a guest appearance. Okay. So, first of all, we've got so I just took off the cap. We're still fully extended. You can see the top compression spring that's giving you kind of the bump. Oh, wow. That's a lot of spring on the top. It definitely, so it's basically the length of the body. Man, I really don't want to change everything about this. I just want to go out and drive it again, but I'm kind of wondering if I should just put that underneath of the piston as it is. I'm thinking it would be even. Oh, it's got a funky piston to it too. That's an interesting piston. It's got like a crown shape to it. Where's it at? There it is. Can you see that? I've never seen a shock piston like that. I don't. Oh, is that's specifically made to just interact with the spring, isn't it? Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, you guys saw it before I did. Spring retainer on top, like so. Yeah, it fits perfectly like that. That's cool. That's a cool design. Oh, that's neat. I like seeing that. So if we flip it over though, Funky Piston needs to be a reggae song. um, now, is there, what do we have for valving or holes or whatever? Let's go ahead. Let's just finish disassembling this shock. Why not, right? It was already moist around the bottom anyway, which not a big deal, whatever. I'm not super concerned about that part. I am just wondering if I leave it to Wyatt. Did Wyatt? Oh, Wyatt designed this truck? Interesting. I guess that timeline would be right. He still could have, still would have had that done, or maybe mostly done before he left. Moist around the bottom, whatever I said. Wyatt does not. No, Wyatt left Axial last year, maybe around May. Is Nicole not a big Valentine's Day person? Or is it because the in-laws are here? Weird. I don't know. Nicole and I aren't big like celebrators of stuff like that. We don't really do much on. We don't do much for like birthdays or holiday stuff. You know, unless it's like family stuff. Family stuff we're all for. You know, Christmas, Thanksgiving, things like that with the fam. We're there for it. So it's got a metal washer underneath the piston. And then just two holes. I can't get used to that. Or two slits on the side of the piston for flow. Now, I don't know. We can check the internal and external diameter of the cylinder and the piston itself to see if it's like a blow-by thing as well. Now, I also don't know what fluid that they had in here, so we're going to be guessing on the refill. Yikes. Sorry. I got my new Techno shock pliers here. See how those work. I don't know that they're going to have the... no. My old hot racing ones are still the go-to on the clamping of random shit. So the bottom cartridge looks like O-ring, rather not X-ring, just regular O-ring. So we've got one O-ring. Then we have just two O-rings, same O-rings, no spacer, no compression space or anything, just two stacked O-rings is all that they're using for that. But so we'll check the internal. Oh, second camera being weird. No. Internal diameter caliper. Calipers are never going to be super accurate for this type of stuff. I mean, close enough for our type of work, but just a hair over 10 mil based on how these are calibrated, which I could grab a gauge pin and check, I guess, but nice Techno shock pliers. Techno actually, one of the guys from Techno, he's actually a member here, but I'm going to be doing a Techno build along, and he's like, here's these shock pliers. I think they're the best ones that have ever been made. So we're going to give those a shot as soon as we get a chance, but they're beefy. But yeah, like I said, 10.07 is what they measured with a caliper. Trust that as far as you'd like. But let's check the diameter of the piston on the solid sides. Just barely under 10. Or right at 10, depending on where you measure it on the plastic. So actually, I mean, that's really good tolerance. But I do like that piston with that little spring retainer right in it. Seems like a pretty solid idea. Now, the one thing is that these shocks do sound very crunchy when you're using them. And that's just because as this spring is compressing, it's not going straight up and down and holding itself. Even though the cap also looks like it holds the internal spring pretty well. But there's I didn't actually know about it until recently. But there's actually like a value that is measured for shocks or springs about as a spring compresses, how much it wants to deform away from just a perfect cylinder. And this one is definitely deforming a lot. I mean, you can't, obviously, my fingers are not going down perfectly parallel to each other, but with how soft this spring is, it's pretty hard for it to want to stay centered at all. So it's rubbing on the bore of that for sure. So that you can hear it while it's running. God, I'm so tempted to put that underneath that shock spring, but I feel like I shouldn't do that until I've tested it with the new tires. I should just leave it exactly how it is and just leave it. I think that this truck really, I want to try it just with the new tires and see how much different it is. Just because I think that with just new tires, it's going to be a whole different rig. So I'm not going to do it much as I want to and tinker around. I feel like I would throw off everything that I'm trying to achieve by just swapping out those tires. Because I think if that is the case and that works exactly like that, that's great news for the consumer. That's like you're a set of tires away from the truck just being a pretty solid truck. Now, if it doesn't fix it, that's a whole nother problem, right? So let's not mix in a bunch of other variables. The no green slime, nah. I just that's already been through those O-rings. I didn't tighten that bottom cap, so I didn't compress the O-rings yet. So that's why I just slid it through before that. Then once we tighten that now, compress it, and we're good. So change all the things. That's my normal way. Just change everything and then cuss a bunch when one thing screws up everything else. Just raw dog. Trust me, they were already plenty wet. So we need to refill this. Where is my shock oil? Where? Oh, I think I might know where it's at. Hold on. Let's no. Okay. Must be in the garage. Ah, last bit. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to refill this shock tomorrow or later tonight after the stream. He's used to everything being on the floor. I will get this refilled tomorrow. It's much springier when it's not on the truck. Just go get it. Go all the way downstairs. Uncrustable jelly is pretty much 55 weight. No collection of it. Not anymore. And actually I don't really keep, wait. No. Found some. What do we think about 60 weight? How close do we think that is? I wonder. I want to throw off all of my testing. 60 weight's got to be close. That felt like 60 while I was pouring it out. 60 weight the world. Oh. It is a pain to fill shocks with a freaking spring in the way. Straight down this bore. Man, how do you tell how much to go with that spring there? I guess that spring displacement can't be much. Maybe I put the spring in at the end. Right? Take the spring out. Yeah, thanks. Shut it, Phoenix. Get it out with water. Okay, we're about 10 mil from the top. No, no. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, about 3 mil from the top. Oh, oh. Now, I'm tightening it with the shock extended because these are a bleeder cap. That second camera thing I'm not getting used to very well. So, where'd my 1.5 go? Okay, I lost my 1.5 somewhere. So we're gonna loosen. What is all over that bleeder cap? Will it focus up that close? No. See that like gel around it? I don't know if that was a gasket that was smushed down or like some sort of sealant. It doesn't really look like a gasket. I don't know. That's very weird. Let's take it all the way out and check. I'm not saying I'm getting old, but no, it's not a gasket because it's not around the bottom of the screw at all. It's only around the outside edge. Huh. It's almost like that was an after, like after they got it built. Oh God. Now, this oil's so thick that I'm going to shoot shock oil all out of this thing, aren't I? Yep. I'm not having another shock oil incident on a live stream. I'm not doing it. I've done it too many times. So we're going to make sure that it's safety squints. I've had too much. I've had it happen too many times. So, okay. Okay. There we go. Clean it up. I'll get 5 memberships if we get a money shot. No. Where's the face shield? You get one of those grinder masks. So, yeah, I'm sure that yeah, you can hear the spring. Like, look, tell me if you can hear the springs. That sound like springs or Valentine's Day? You guys tell me. So that's just, you can tell it's the spring hitting or like rubbing on the side of the shock body as it's scientific. Only one change at a time. Josh is boring. I mean, other than the 60 weight oil. Is your floor conducive in finding flung parts? It's basically the same carpet as my last house. So I don't know if that's yes or no, really. Heard that. Do that other side so they match. Ugh. Don't want to. Don't worry, guys. It's not diff, just the shocks. It does. It's not a good sound. I'm not saying it's a bad performance thing. It just sound. Do any of the VP kits come with the tuning shock ends? Yeah, the VRD Carbon does. And maybe the VRD Builders kit. Can't remember for sure. You may need to drag a magnet at the old place. The old place is getting new carpeting, so I don't have to worry so much. But Great. You lost just about everything that hit the floor. Whatever. I did not. I had a great track record. So, ugh. All right. We're bolting this sucker back on, and we'll see if we can notice any like significantly different things that I need to then go back and check the other one. What the shit? Okay. But will they look like all the wait, what? I don't know what that means. Okay. I'm gonna put the stock tire back on just for like so it's even and we can check weight and see if it like falls out noticeably slower. So new shock oil is on this side over here, right? That was pretty close to the same. A little bit slower though, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit slower. Not much, but a little bit. Not enough to worry about. Don't worry about that. That little guy, I wouldn't worry about that little guy. Notably slower, a little slower. Notable, like barely 30%, maybe like 15%. Should have used 55 weight. I don't have 55 weight. Ew. I don't know what else I have in there. So yeah, tis for the torque twist. What could possibly go wrong? Listen, I'm being scientific, guys. Leave me alone. I'm just do the other one. I don't want to do the other one. Just want to do hood rat stuff with my friends. So tell Traxxas to get on that 55 weight oil. I know. Well, I was looking for my carousel, my Traxxas oil, but it's downstairs. I just had this bottle of Losi shock oil in the drawer there. This thing drives terrible. This engine feels unbalanced. Tape it? He smokes with cigarettes. What? Oh, you know what? I didn't have the wheel nut on. So that extra weight out to the outside edge, probably a little bit of leverage on it. If that wheel nut probably would have made it go about the same speed. And the shift servo for the ASD is on this side. So that's probably where that extra speed was coming from. It probably wasn't the shock oil. I think I'm good. We're set. Okay. Lighter tire also, you think? Could have been. Yeah. Might not have had as much air in it. I need a brass wheel nut. Okay, let's get those other tires on there. I'm gonna use my big wrench to get this wheel off. That is a nicer move. You sound like a used car salesman. All right, so sun's out, guns out. Looks killer on the Swampers. Oh, I hate the Swampers. I hate them. Hate the look of Swampers, but think that they're going to work. I know they'll work. And I think that they will make this car much better than the stock tires. So I just don't like swampers. But I always have good luck with Proline rubber. So I'm betting on them kicking ass. Now, I have never had a problem with the smell of Proline tires. It has never really bothered me. Until I opened these. These smell worse than any Proline tire I've ever used. They are rancid inside these packages. I was like, oof. Oof. Drop the front. Oh, to see if it's even? Hey, that's scientific. Scientific. Not my favorite, but they work well in cage bucket. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Let's see how even the. You guys want to bet on the front falling even or not? I bet servo side is faster. Shit. Pretty even. Servo side might even be slower. Damn it. I think my shock oil is too heavy, guys. Dead even, yeah. Oh my god, these tires stink so bad. And they get on your hands. Like, fix the rear. I don't want to fix the rear. Now, the other thing that I'm doing is not changing the foams yet. I will change the foams, but I'm running the stock foams. But gloves. I was looking for gloves, and I don't think I have any up here. Do I? I don't. No, no gloves. I just know I'm going to touch my face after this, and I'm going to taste it. And if you've ever had that taste on your... But, so these foams are... How many people replied to Adam and Eve on your IG story today? You want to see it? Here we go. So, gotta be careful just in case something inappropriate pops up on my Instagram feed. Because, so, we had RFK, Red dye in it, Relarlo. What? Oh, Kent Dixon has one on the way. Big Leaf Spring keeping you down. Anonymous. Oscar the Grouch. Your wife. Tom first. Of course you can't. It's only 2 sold. Cat. Somebody who spelled rich, R-A-T-C-H. Because adamandeve.com. Santa Claus. Man Bear Pig. That might be my favorite. Rich. Let's see. Newsom. Oh my god. John Schultz. Adam and Eve. Only 2 Adam and Eves. So for those that didn't know, Matt and I ordered the RC 4-wheel drive mystery boxes. We had them done through a third party who ordered them. And I don't think that we used somebody removed from us enough. And or, who knows? Because you know, they'll say oversold, which we all know they're just throwing a bunch of shit they don't use anymore anyway in them. So that you know they could make as many mystery boxes as they wanted. Now I'm cutting the corner off the inside bead of these because these foams on narrow wheels with these fat ass TSL bogger beads is already a fat ass TSL bogger beads is also a ludicrous song. But I'm just trying to make it easy on myself. Lick the fingers and seal the deal. No way they can't. Josh, did you put aside those 4F10 knuckles in black for me like you promised? Damn thing sold out like that. I was watching and didn't see until 3-ish. Yeah, I saw that they sold out super fast. They aren't even on the site anymore. I did see that also. Probably the only two they sold. Say the world, I'll buy 2 boxes right now. Frank, they took them off the site. And I'll tell you, I knew it. I knew it. So bummed. Seriously, so bummed. The only good thing that came out of that whole situation was getting fun of making fun of Matt for shorting Brandon on the money. Now I think that was my problem. We used Brandon to buy them, and I think they figured it out. What about my pens? I think they backed out of the mystery box deal with all the bad promo. I honestly don't think that they have that in them. I don't think that they have any shame when it comes to that. So jokes on me. I bought that box of gems. Frank, I think I added extra stuff to it because even though I didn't know you at the time, I know you very well at the time, there was no way I could sell that box as it was. Josh, don't you have an in guy that you could ask? I could, but you know what I don't like to do is put people in an awkward situation at their job. Be like, hey, can you like? I can't. The Wheel of Fortune, Deal of Fortune have certainly made them look that much worse. Well, I mean, in all fairness, I guess that all came because of how mad Matt and I were at those mystery boxes. That's where that whole thing decided to come from. If we wouldn't have bought those, I wouldn't have come up with Wheel of Fortune. Like, we were just so pissed off. It was like that. We're like, well, what if we just do a mystery box, but that's good? Like, let's do one that people will like. So, like I said, these have some big old fatty beads to them. So I'm using some extra long 440 hardware to get them started. First, not too far. You guys are going to see me absolutely struggle with this tonight. I can tell you that because I did last night as well. And that's when I finally went to the bead trimming. And then I decided, let's do this on a live stream instead tomorrow. What I'm going to do is remove that for now because I don't think you need that cam right now. I don't think it's adding any value. So rebuilding shocks would have been a lot easier. Science, man. Science. Okay, gotta go further before I can start tightening up the real ones. Bead looks good so far. I expect that it will pop out somewhere. Yep, no, or not. Yep, popped out. Got it. God damn it. Thank you, Jeremy. This helps my frustration. How long can you go around and around before a police officer says you can't do that anymore? Wife is asking. Technically, what they would get you for is either like careless driving or like I think because it's happened before. Like people have definitely done it. But yeah. Roberts. I understand how we're driving and get mad for customers getting mad and getting a box of junk for pretty good money. Dude, I know. Like $400 worth of original retail value for $250. Now, if it's viable, reasonable, like call it modern or current product, that's not bad. But if you do it with freaking discount clearance garbage, that's bullshit. Okay. Starting. Now I'm going to I only have one regular length screw in there. Taking that back out, I'm going to, where's my other long 440? Shoot. Oh, there it is. Got it. Now, they also said special micro box available upon request. And I'm like, oh, they can't sell those TF24s to save their life. It's going to be so many of those. But unfortunately, they caught on to us. Someone's getting a hydraulic pump for a 1/14th excavator. Now, the other thing is that the person making the boxes, like, not like, because they're not packing them individually because they were all the same. But the person like making what goes in them may just have no goddamn idea of what it is. They're just like, I don't know. This stuff looks like it could be fine. So, if you at least did on April 1st, it would have been okay. 1.7 tires or the 0.7 tires. Oh, bought some 0.7 tires. Thought they were supposed to be 1 inch. Yeah, I could see that stuff. Well, this one's popping out. You son of a God, I hate these tires so much. Boggers, whatever these things are, super swampers, I think they know I hate them. This is like the one tire they've never updated. They're just like, you know what? Let's give them a taste of history. Like, do you guys remember when there used to be stipulations or like special inner rings sold for Proline tires because their beads were so much different than everybody else's that they had to be like, hey, you got to buy special shit to work with Proline tires. They got away from that. Like most of us don't even think about that anymore. Every once in a while, I think I'm going to cut more off the foam. I'm going to cut a little more off the foam. I am going to change the foams. I'm going to find a good 5.5 inch foam, which is just I don't know. I'm sure that there is. Honestly, I don't know what foams to run in Swampers yet because I haven't run freaking Swampers. SSD still sells Proline bead wheels. Yeah. Yep, I do remember that. They have like a special blue ring or something. That's actually a fun. So I do a show every week about new items available in the scale world of RC. And I check, I think I'm something at like 160 websites a week right now. And SSD is still one on there. They haven't had a new item in so long. I really wonder if that brand will be for sale or if it'll go away. I wonder because they're not doing anything. It just makes me wonder. I have a folder, like I have my news links are broken down into 5 different folders, and I open up, right click, open all, and it opens a ton of tabs. Go through all those, and I go to the next folder, right click, open all, ton of tabs. And I have a folder of basically dead companies. They're all like ranked A, B, C, D, and they're A, B, C, D, and then there's a tools folder. So there's one that I use of just like not like tools here, but like tools for doing the news. And I put the dead ones into that last folder, or one of the last folders, and it's like, what's in there? Drive RC, they were like a big one during the drag racing days. They haven't had a goddamn thing in forever. What else do I have in there? Let's see. Energy, RC Nerds, Loops model. Loops is gone. Drive RC is in there as well. But like I said, and SSD is one I just put in there last week. So I still check them, but it's like I check quick. I know what the page looks like. I can close it right away if I don't see anything. So, yeah. I got a set of 2.2525 tusks today. I feel like I won something. Yeah, that's no joke. Now, I looked at the tusks because I could get a set, but they were a little bit too short for what I was trying to do. I wanted a tire that was still very close. These foams are still so oversized. Just got my energy bearing pullers in orange. Errol, that was when you messaged me the other day. I do like these things. I've got one orange bearing puller and one grayish. So the grayish is for the 5 and 6 mil interior, and then this is for the 8, 10, and 12. But one of the energy things that I'm very happy about. Scalar Fab. So I do still check Scalar Fab. Scalar Fab has had some stuff recently. Scalar Fab was purchased. Let's see, when were they purchased? Maybe it was sometime last summer or so. And I think they were purchased by a guy out of Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, Southern Missouri. And I saw some photos, saw some of that. Now, Scalar Fab, I mean, I think a lot of their business was based on the fact that they were very active on social media. And the new owner, that is not so much the case. But I think he's improving on that. Now, the scalar fab stuff was never like amazing, right? It was always, you know, reasonably inexpensive and pretty widely available. It got the job done. But it was in your face all the time, so I think you saw it more because of that. Marketing does work, especially on products that like don't necessarily set themselves apart otherwise. Okay. Okay, let's see. In the works. In the works, that was the Link company, things like that. They were bought by NSDRC, I believe, last year. And yeah, I don't know if you see as much, but or from them, but yeah, I mean, I know NSDRC bought them towards the end of last year or so, fall maybe. Remember some of the companies from the old forum days? Oh, sure. It was actually funny. Do you guys remember a company called The Scale Shop in the RCC days? He was around for a long time. The guy's name was Corey. His avatar was his wife's butt. Yep. So we were cleaning our office out this week, and I ran across an old scale aluminum radiator. And I was like, holy crap. I was like, I remember this. I've had this thing for 15 years or so, 10, at least 10 years. So I took a photo, and I had actually recently had a message from him, Corey, his name. So I like messaged him and I looked up his account, messaged him back and was like, hey, remember this? It's kind of fun. Team 36. Team 36 was another one. Actually, when so Team 36 was owned by a guy named Norm Hope. And when he decided to get out of the hobby, I bought everything he had hobby related. There was like a few cars, radio, all of the materials and parts and things like that he had for creating the seats that he had. And then he also had like hundreds of these aluminum pill carriers that he made into like scale nitrous tanks. And I just had boxes of this. And I sold the cars, sold the radio. He sent me like bins of tools and hardware and shit like that. And I had a lot of that stuff for years, but it all just kind of, I had it for a long time. Did end up selling it, and I think I sold like all the materials and stuff to a guy in Disney, Oklahoma, when I was down there for Crawlapalooza before I moved out here to California. And I was like, hey, it's a business in a box. Here you go. Make scale seats if you want. Who makes the rod end tool for putting links on drivers? That is done by Team Garage Hack. So a number of places make this. I got this from Team Garage Hack before I think I remember anybody else making it commercially available. Other places, like I said, do make them as well now, but support TGH if you can. I had one. I had made my own long before any were commercially available. And do I still have it in here? Doubt it. Yes, I do. Here's the one that I made myself a long time ago, way before you could buy it. But this is an Axial dog bone cup from a Wraith. So dog bone that I opened up the slot in and then put some duct tape and a couple O-rings around to center the rod end. And I just chucked it in my drill. And then so there you go. That was the one I used for years before you could buy the TGH one. And evidently, I felt like still keeping it. So yeah. Let's see. Any other names I should I see in here? Company names. Zerba tool, I thought it was called. That is the other part, MST. This is the Zerba tool. SC or SZCZE RBA Zerba, Shane Zerba. Eyeball engineering. Yes. Eyeball engineering. That was, I feel like eyeball engineering was actually, that was his original name. Then it was changed to DCW, which standard for Dude Crawler Works, which was later bought by Brett from Brazen Scale. DCW was owned by a guy named Chris, I believe, Chris Metzger, maybe. And I believe he is either in Southern Missouri or Arkansas. Yeah. So Mayhem Engineering made wheels. Mayhem, yeah, Mayhem was owned by a guy named Dan something for a long time. Yeah, he made like the double fatties. That was a one back in the day that was pretty common. And it was, and I believe that when he sold Mayhem, I think he sold Mayhem in he'd kind of fallen off, but he still owned the company. And I think he sold in like 2016 or so. And if I'm not mistaken, he sold to a guy that many of you probably know named Revis. And I don't think Revis ever did anything with it, but I think, or maybe he was going to buy it and it didn't go through. But yeah, I had some Mayhem wheels. I ran them for a while. That was Novak, of course. Novak was a big one. I've got a Brazen full mullet chassis waiting to be built somewhere. I hope it's not a full party with the Leafs. Remember Wordy Made? Sure, Wordy Made is he's actually just up the hill in Reno. What is Wordy Made's name? Matt Henry. Matt Henry was the owner of Wordy Made. Yeah, he closed it up. He's still welding stuff, and I think he works in like the aviation industry. RC Bros, that was owned by a guy named William Gunderman out of the Pacific Northwest. And Will and his brother, I think, is where the name came from, started a store that mainly did basher stuff back in the day. And and then they went to the crawler side later, and they found, I think, the most success from making their burley tubes, which were like back in the day, beef tubes was not a thing. Beef tubes didn't invent tubes at all. The guy who made tubes initially was actually a guy named Gunner. Gunner tubes were like what they first were. And then beef tubes just started making them on his own. But Gunner tubes was actually the guy who came up with that idea. But the burley tubes from RC Bros, Will actually stop back in here sometimes. He's actually recently got back in it. He moved from the Pacific Northwest down to Arizona. He's got a young son now, and he's into wrenching and crawling again. And so it's cool. You'll see him in here sometimes under Pro RC Crawler. But yeah, K2, the K2 chassis. Got one of those somewhere. That they're actually K2 was one of the guys that ran that the actual business wasn't called K2. It was called what were they called? I can't remember. Bo something. God, I can't remember. Rowdy Racing. Yep, they made some laser cut stuff back in the day. He was out of the Southeast somewhere. I think I can't remember what his name was. Grip Fab made the ARB style, not working, but he made lockers for AR60 stuff that looked like an ARB locker. It was just cool. It didn't add any additional function. It just looked cool. So Bowlink. No. This was different. This was crawler stuff only. They made chassis. It was called they had the K2, they had the K23S, the K23L. One of my very first aftermarket chassis I ever bought was the K23L. And I made a TLT scale truck with an HPI Wrangler body on it back then, a Rubicon body, and I called it Old Drippy. And it was, do you guys remember the show Aqua Teen Hunger Force? It was a reference from that. Thank you. Oh, yeah, meatball, frylock, meatwad, frylock, and
shake,
master shake. Yeah. Rain RC. That's exactly it. Thank you. Bauhaus. No, Bauhaus was owned by a guy named Nick Chadwick, and he passed away suddenly a couple years ago. Let's see. This is fun. I like it. Locked Up. Locked Up's still around, owned by a guy named Patrick Norton out of Austin, Texas. Did I miss any other one? I'm sure I did. Yeah, RP. It sucked. I remember when it happened, I was pretty surprised. After the fact, it was purchased by Ryan Kornmesser out of like the Pennsylvania area or something like that, and they own it now. I think Nick was also, or maybe was also involved in the Helios batteries or something like that. Something along those lines. We talked. Let's see, any other old MS Tech. Oh God, I remember that. That was run by a guy named Scott Law, something with an L, like Longfield or something like that. And he was out of the Phoenix or area somewhere down there. I don't know. Everywhere in Arizona is just Phoenix to me. And they had a family-owned machine shop that made that stuff, and he made those really cool SCX frame rails back then. Super cool. Do you remember Teen Gonads? Yep, I actually saw the Teen Gonads guy. It's been several years ago now. Talked to him for a while out at Mount Diablo here in whatever. Aqua Teen Hunger Force is hilarious. What was the name of the shop that you made the chassis for? I designed for TCS, the crawler store, for from 2006 to maybe 2010 or so. And then I kind of went off and did my own thing a little bit more. McAllister, I didn't really do anything with, I don't really know anything about them. They weren't as much in our market. Crawler Innovations, owned by Edmundo Ayala out of somewhere down in Texas. I can't remember exactly where. I used to talk to Eddie quite a bit. I haven't talked to him in a long time now. BP came out with foams at the time, and that sometimes those things then stop becoming relationships you have. But CCXRC. Now that I like that joke. Kamikaze Customs. Oh God, for those of you who are in the early crawling days, Kamikaze Customs, owned by a guy named Jeff Williams out of Alabama somewhere back then. Jeff Williams was actually the guy who introduced me to bouncers back in the day, like rock bouncers, Fat Girl and all those. But before that was a thing and it was just taken off, they used to be called Atna buggies because of Atna Mountain down in Tennessee where these guys would run. And it was just a thing and he's like, you gotta check out these Atna buggies. These guys doing this crazy shit, power line hill and all this. And then it just got Tim Cameron came in, built these things, Fat Girl buggy doing the, yeah, it was wild stuff. Blue Monkey RC. Oh man, he made a Yeti IFS kit that was absolute garbage. I bought that thing and holy shit, was it the worst. That guy went out of business because he did such bad work. He made like a shock relocation kit for the twin hammers that wasn't bad, but his IFS kit to like make a Wraith Yeti cross or IFS Wraith kit, something like that. I don't remember what it was, but holy shit, it was terrible. Terrible. Mattzilla. I've got a story about that one. So Mattzilla, owned by a guy named Lou Lee. And he was out of SoCal down there. And the family business that he basically worked at, or was part of, whatever it was, I think it was owned by his uncle technically. They made wire things like shopping carts, clothing racks, things like that. And he used that material to make the chassis out of. So it was a slightly different gauge material than anything else. And it was also a little bit softer. But he did make some cool stuff. And I ran some of his chassis for a really long time. And I was friends with Lou for quite a while. I would talk to him on the phone. We'd talk for goddamn hours. And then when I first came out to California, I came out January 1st, basically 2016. And I came down and then I decided I want to go down to King of the Hammers. So me and Dan Wilson went down to King of the Hammers. Went down. I took my Mattzilla car down there. Had a blast. Did a bunch of crawling. Crawled with Schultz and those guys after the fact. And then like, hey, let's go into LA. Meet up with Lou. Let's build something. So we did. We went down to his shop. We actually did a live stream from there. I bet it's still on here. And we got it. It started going late. And we're like, okay, we gotta call this. So we decided to get a hotel, me and Dan, and Lou pointed us in the right way. He pointed us in a way, and let me tell you, was it ever not the right way? Never in my life have I been in a sketchier place. I slept on top of the mattress or on top of the sheets and everything, and I think I didn't. I think Dan's like, I'm going to sleep on this floor over here because it looks better than any of the beds. We slept for a few hours or whatever, and we had told Lou we'd meet him there in the morning. Well, we showed up in the morning, and this dude was just radio silent. Could not get a hold of him. But all my shit was still inside his shop. Hours, Dan and I trying to get a hold of him. And there's not a lot that makes me real mad, but like telling somebody you'll either pick them up at a place, do this, be there, this, and then just being like, just no show, wild late, whatever. It had my blood boiling. He finally shows up maybe 5 hours late, 6 hours late, something like that. And I was so hot at the time. I just went inside, got my shit, and we hit the road. And it never finished that cage. I don't know. I can't remember if I threw it away or if I sold it, but I was so pissed. And then I never ran another Mattzilla thing again. Anyway, that was, I was hot about that. Can't forget Fast Eddie. I mean, the previous house, the house that I just left from and moved here, that Fast Eddie, he owned that house. That was who we rented from, was Fast Eddie. So he's local to me here, and he's the one who owned that house and rented it to us. So he's still quiet. He's still around. Does Nicole still work Fast Eddie? Nope, she hasn't worked there for quite some time. Krupp carbon chassis are very big here in the East. Oh, I must have missed another comment. But yeah, Krupp Carbon is owned by Austin Williams. He's still going on. Let's see. Another screw. Discount code date night. I think it still works. HD hardware. Holy shit. You know, there's another funny story about that. So when Nicole and I we were dating, and we started that whole HD hardware thing, we did what we did. I had my pricing set based on the pricing of screws and hardware that I was getting, and it kind of went from there. Well, when we stopped doing it, K&K started a little bit after us, but they couldn't really match or come anywhere close to our price on hardware at the time. Well, the problem is that we stopped doing it, and he had kind of like tried to set his prices pretty competitive at the time, but it basically didn't leave him any money to be able to do distribution through dealers, because you have to give dealers, a discount so they can sell to their customer and make money. Well, like, just didn't leave enough. So he had to like slowly work that up. So he had it so that he could get it to a dealer so a hobby shop could sell it. I just remember having that conversation with him 10 years ago. And just about like, yeah, we're trying to get our stuff there. But there was also another guy called Screw Loose Hex Head Hardware. And he was I apologize if I'm going to, it was like a pastor or a preacher. I don't know which one is the one that you can be married, but he was the one you could be married. I think that's pastor or priest. You can't be married, right? I don't know. Obviously, is it hot in here? Either way, super nice guy. I met him in 2014 at the East Coast Scale Challenge in Rose Park, Pennsylvania. And yeah, Leo Lip. Holy crap, Fracture RC. Fracture RC was an early designer for RC 4-wheel drive. RC 4-wheel drive didn't have, still really don't have, like designers. They had like contract people that they used to just like basically trade designs for parts. They didn't pay anybody. I designed stuff for them back in the day. They didn't pay anybody. They just like traded them stuff. Well, this kid, Leo Lip, was wildly talented. And he was out of like New Zealand. And he was mainly like a video game type designer. He didn't design in like CAD like we'd normally do. It was more like Blender. And somehow he would be able to get them his designs and then they would be able to manufacture them. Like the Chinese factory would be able to interpolate it into a CAD that they could use. But this kid, wildly talented. He was all over RC Crawl at the time. Super nice guy. And then he just disappeared. And not just disappeared from like the forums, because that would happen, but motherfuck, Bead popped out. God. Anyway, he just disappeared from the forum entirely, and then finally find some information. He lived in New Zealand, and he disappeared from college where he was at, out with some friends one night, and he just disappeared. And like missing persons, couldn't find him, never found it for however long. And then maybe, I can't remember how long ago it was. I'll mess this part up, but it was maybe less than 10 years ago. They actually found him or found his car, maybe remains as well. He went off a road and his car went into the water or the ocean, whatever it was, and he passed. But he was missing for well over 10 years, I believe. If you Google it, you can probably find it. But yeah, it was wild. He just went away, and yeah, it was 10 plus years, just nothing. Then they finally found him not that long ago. So yeah, that was a wild one. Rebel RC, RC Bros. We talked about RC Bros a little earlier. Rebel RC. That was founded by Bond Gilmore, owner of Rebel Off Road down in SoCal, and Jeff Johns, former founder of Axial. And Bond and Jeff were good friends for a long time. From the Axial days, there was a lot of Rebel off-road stickers and things like that on the original Axials. And obviously, Jeff thought he could kind of reignite that a little bit. And they decided to just bring in rebranded Yikong YK 4106s or 4106 Pros. And then, you know, thought they'd just put a sticker over that hood, call it a RebelCon, and no one would notice until Jeep noticed. And Bond is like, hey, my real business is dependent on Jeep. So maybe we go ahead and close this business down. We actually had Jeff John on Livestream Takeover after they launched that to like discuss it. And then I don't think that business lasted more than 18 months. CKRC. CKRC was initially started by a guy named Jake Hallenbeck, and never liked Jake very much for a number of reasons. But he was a talented driver, and he ran a pretty good business. He stocked a lot of stuff, a lot of shady stuff. A lot of people didn't like Jake for a lot of reasons. I think still. He was a big full-size guy, and I think a lot of people didn't like him in the full-size world too. Yeah, anyway, he sold it to a guy and his wife named Jason and Deanna, can't remember. Anyway, and where they screwed up is they took down the website, changed the name from CKRC Crawlers to CKRC Hobbies, and it just wrecked their SEO. Because their site you would type in Axial and it would rank 1 or 2. It was RPP and CKRC. That was the ones. And they just did that and it just absolutely crashed. And basically they lost everything that they put into that business, which was not a small amount of money. Any love for shorters? Team Durango. Team Durango is kind of an interesting story because Team Durango, Arma, and Axial were all basically the same thing or the same fate. When Axial was purchased by Great Plains back in the day, it was all 3 of those were purchased at the same time. Arma, Team Durango, and Axial for pennies on the dollar because of the Taiwanese factory that owned them all. And then Team Durango folded shortly after, or it was Great Plains folded them. So, yeah, crazy shit. I don't know anything about short course. The only reason I know anything about that is because of that whole buyout situation. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that does that when mounting tires, Josh. Only difference is mine in the next room. Just Aerotex. God damn it, Dewey. Aerotex, owned by a guy named Jeremy Erickson. Jeremy spelled Germae, something like that. And he was an electrician, and then he decided to quit his electrician job, and he wanted to manufacture RC crawler parts. He was based out of Omaha, and he was making Delrin machined wheels. And he was really one of the only ones doing it consistently. And he was doing a pretty decent job, and he was maintaining and keeping going. And then son of a bitch. Anyway, Jeremy was going pretty well, and then he decided to come up with these scale motors, scale engine transmission combos, all machined out of aluminum, pretty beautiful pieces. And what the fuck is that noise? I don't know if you guys can hear that. Anyway, but the he decided to come up with these things. They were $500 for this motor transmission machined aluminum combo, and it was good. Anyway, I bought one, and so did maybe 15 other people, and he never delivered to any of us. It all just he ran away with all of our money and a bunch of people's money for wheels and stuff like that, and then disappeared. Like, Jeremy and I were friends. We talked often. He stayed at my house with me. We traveled 15 hours across country together, and like we were friends, and he just evaporated with our money, our parts. Just, yeah, it was wild. What year was this? That would have been 2011 or 2012, right in there somewhere. That's just your meds kicking in. Shut it. Josh, you remember JP Designs or Chassis? He used to make half torsion Delrin chassis. Yeah, JP Customs was the name. And it was a guy named Jared Morey or Jared Mooney, something like that. He was out of like Springfield, Missouri area. And it wasn't Delrin. It was actually aluminum, and it was called the Pimp Cane. It was the budget version of the stick chassis from TCS Crawlers. And yeah, he's I think I'm still Facebook friends with him. But yeah, he ran that for a while. He sold it to he sold that business, I believe, to somebody in Hawaii. And I think it might still be a business. Yeah. Let's see. Not a brand, but who remembers Scale Freak? Yeah, Scale Freak. I think that was like a YouTube channel mainly. I think it was run by a guy named Josh out of Canada. Or wait, was he part of it? And it was actually another guy, kind of a guy looked similar to me, had a beard a bit, but also out of, yeah, that's kind of who it was. Guy, if I'm remembering right, Joe Ferguson. God, that's right, Kent. Good call. That's I remember now. Those tires mounted yet? I don't want to hear it. I'm surprised most funny at Josh's village to recall individual first and last names accurate. I can barely remember my second cousin's children. Oh, I can't remember any of those people. Nothing. No, I have nothing on that. RC though? Punk. Oh, Punk RC. I never really knew him very well. I definitely was familiar with his stuff, but I didn't know him. I actually don't know much about who that was or anything. Dinky RC, run by a guy named Matt Dankenbring. He's still in business. There's up and downs with all of that. He and I have had our collaborations and run-ins with each other over many years. He was a KCRC member when I moved into Kansas City in 2006. So I think he does mainly mini stuff now, or the micro stuff, whatever you want to call that. Yeah. Super Shafty. He still make transmissions. Super Shafty's been through several hands. It was originally started by a guy named Rick. And I'm blanking on his last name right now. But Rick was a real nice guy. He just wasn't great at running a business. And he was, like I said, super nice guy, big dude, like absolute big dude. And he wasn't great at running a business though. And he decided to pivot and kind of like, he was a truck driver. He got hurt, couldn't do truck stuff anymore, sold his truck, tried to put it into his business in a print shop type thing. And then ended up selling the business to a guy named Mike Durstein, who was out of the Washington, D.C. area. Durstein ran it for quite some time until he got a job offer at RC Four-Wheel Drive and moved cross country. And at that time, he sold the Super Shafty business to AJ Condon, who now owns it. And then AJ has obviously invested more. AJ is a pretty savvy business person as far as that stuff goes. I'm not sure what all businesses he comes from. He obviously has the hobby stuff now, but he also owned restaurants like Jimmy John's for quite some time. Maybe he still owns some. I know he was selling some of them in the past, but yeah, he was, yeah. Let's see. Billet Works. Billet Works was so Billet Works was originally Visionary Fabrication, and Visionary Fabrication was started by a guy named Don Eidson, and he had a partner. And Don, he had a VF dig, which was like one of the first digs you could buy. It worked pretty well, and it was cool. Don, another guy, wasn't great at business. He had there was always something. Partner screwing him, taking his money, somebody coming in, machines. Just wasn't good at business. And then later on, that changed from Visionary Fabrication to, what was the next name? I can't remember what the next name was, but it went from Visionary to something else. I didn't think it was Billet Works right away, but he partnered with a guy named Solomon Knives, something like that. And they ran it pretty successfully because I think Solomon kept the business side going. But I think then there was a falling out and then it failed. And then Don started it back up. And that's when we saw like the last round of Billet Works stuff, the monster truck stuff. That was when you saw like his 2.6 bead locks, things like that. I bought one of his like mega truck kits at one time. Yeah. So let's see, where else am I going here? TCX X Trail chassis. That was my chassis design. That was me mainly. Let's see. Can you remember all of this? Maybe I spoke way much when I was younger and crazy. Kansas City. I'm from OP, Kansas. Thought nothing came out of here besides Castle Creations. Nope. I was in Kansas City for quite some time. That's still what I call home. That's where my RC career, I would say, started. Suits, Eric suits. Painters are a flaky bunch. I feel like people come up in painting and then they fall out because there's just too much effort for what people will pay. Yeah. TCS L Trail chassis for 1/18th, also my design. MIP and BGR. Well, MIP is still around. BJR, Bill Roncallo out of SoCal. He is the like production welder, head of production, aluminum welding, whatever it is, for Genrite Off-Road. I believe he's still there as well. Outlaw Farmers, thank you very much. Super Shafty makes the best comp axles made. They're okay. I don't think they're the best. This is valuable geoguessing time. Let's see. What else am I missing here? YSS Crawlers. Does that count? Yes. YSS was owned. Oh God, what was his name? Yoshiaki. Yoshiaki out of Japan. YSS made some wildly cool stuff. We got some fun pictures of Yoshiaki with some of the other guys from Japan and Nicole. And Japanese culture is very different. They're very respectful people, wildly respectful. And they, so like Nicole is like taking a picture and she Nicole's a hugger. So she like hugs them and they're just like, whoa. There's a picture of Nicole in a Japanese RC magazine holding one of their cars and like hugging it. And there's like, it's so funny. Did JEC get mentioned? No, JEC. Well, until what, last year, JEC was around. They had that garage fire, and and then he sold the business to somebody. Might have been Power Hobby or something. Tim Samuel, War Pig. Yep, Tim's building a beautiful full size rig right now. Still around. Is Dinky RC? Do you mean Dinky RC? If so, yes, as far as I know. Y-Town. Yeah. Y-Town, many of you may remember. Y-Town was, a lot of people will remember it from Jake. I keep wanting to call him Jake Del Monte. But Jake, what is Jake's last name? Oh my God. Del Monte was his screen name for many years. Jake. Somebody help me here. Whatever it is. Jake Wright. There it is. Got it. But Jake actually bought Y-Town from another guy who was out of Arizona, and I can't remember what his name was, but I dealt with him before, and I used to be a team driver for Y-Town for some, and I started being a Y-Town driver in 2010, and I built a BJ V4, which stood for Beetlejuice V4. So that was back in the days. Those days, you were either a Y-Town crawler guy or you were a T1E. T1E, there's one that you guys haven't mentioned. T1E was owned by a guy named Silas and his buddy Mike Rosenthal. And those guys were a freaking riot. Love that. Those guys were awesome. But also the Y-Town stuff, I love the looks of a little bit more. I decided to run that. BP Customs, Bruce Peace. He's actually local-ish here. He's still around, but I don't think we see much of his chassis anymore. The Red Cat Gen 7 was a version of a BP chassis, BPC chassis, BP chassis. Yeah. Suits took my stuff and never got it back. I've heard that story more than once. But yeah, Bender Customs. Yeah, Brad Dumont. Bender Customs was an OG. He came up, he had one of the very first aftermarket crawling chassis like you could buy that was produced before crawling was a thing. There was no Axial. All we were doing was converting Tamiyas over. And we would take, and he had the Shaggin' Wagon. And that was the name of this chassis, this big fucking Shaggin' Wagon. And then he came up with the SW2 chassis, and that one stopped calling it the Shaggin' Wagon, just called it the SW2. And then the SW3 came out, would have been 2007. It came out 2007-ish, and I remember really wanting to get one. It was really hard to get. Just couldn't get it, and I ended up making my own version of it, basically. But shortly after that, started seeing Bender post some pictures with some I was like, that's weird. There's some tape on the bottom of this chassis. Hey, full circle. There was some tape on the bottom of this chassis that looked like this tape. I swear to God. And underneath of the tape on the side of this chassis, it said Axial, because Bender had decided to move to California to work for Axial. And he was covering up the Axial logo with a piece of tape because it hadn't been announced yet. And that is what the SWX chassis was. Ha! Which is this. Here is a new inbox SWX chassis with the BC logo for Bender Customs. Boom. There you go. Brad left Axial maybe around the probably would have been 2017-ish, and then they started a social media company, him and his wife Faith, who they met while working at Axial. Faith was like a receptionist, and I believe they still do that. So Painters are like that because of the fumes. Let's Toizuki, Ben Moran. Such a shit starter. He caused so much bullshit. I love Ben. Rusty Customs. I think a lot of us remember any of that. Brood, owned by a guy named Eddie Mallet. Some pretty interesting history behind that. You probably look up some of that in the paper. Let's see. Pimp Cane, we talked a little bit about. JP Customs. Ric Flair, full circle. Let's see. Oh, I like the S. Yep, exactly. Pack rat. Brad is good, people. Is TSS still around? Still have a set of Robbie Gordon wheels. We actually talked about him earlier because I ran across one of his scale. He's not doing RC anymore, but he's got a nice Corvette that he road races. Superstition Machine Works. Yeah, actually, he's a super talented dude. We actually flew him out to Vanquish maybe a few years ago. Maybe this could have been pre-COVID even. To consider as for like a job offer. It didn't work out at the time. It would have been a big move for him and the whole family. So it didn't work out that way. But definitely. Who's that? Coming in. Are you free, John? Are you free to say who did the powder coating for the Vanquish breast cancer wheels? That was Rusty Customs. It was Cerakote. We don't work with Rusty anymore though. So yeah. Josh, will you do the Fab 801 Atom Bot chassis that drops on and off? I don't know. I do like his chassis. Trust me, I've had him saved for a long time to think about. Let's see. Create a Crawler. I never had any of the Create a Crawler stuff. He made some pretty interesting wheels. Create a Crawler's business was purchased by Corey Bauman, who was is the owner of RPP Hobby. Corey was in a really bad accident it would have been around August of 2015 or so. He was on his road bike. He was an avid road biker, and he got hit by a drug addict, basically, in a pickup, and at some sort of high speed. And I think Corey basically came into the cab of this truck. And from what I heard, it was terrible. As far as like what they basically ditched him and ran and hid. He was caught later. But Corey had some traumatic brain injury. It was terrible. And he, of course, he's still with us. He isn't able to run his business like he did before. It's run by some other good people, but RPP is not what it was. But yeah, it was, they're the ones who bought the Create a Crawler stuff. I think RPP may still even have CAC listed wheels on their site, if I'm not wrong. Not sure if this is on the same topic, but TCS Crawlers was my go-to for Axial AS10 parts back around 2009, 2010. Yeah. TCS Crawlers was owned by a guy named Kevin Gooman. And Kevin was the reason that I kind of got the opportunities that I did in crawling. I had posted up some CAD shots on RC Crawler back in the day, and Kevin reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in designing for him. So I designed, let's see. I designed parts for him from 2006 till about 2010 or so. So yeah, like all the AX10 stuff, any of that stuff, Wheelie King, AX10, any of that from about 2006 to 2010 were projects that I designed. And yeah, it was great. So anyway, yeah, I think that is, we've had obviously this was I did get the tires mounted finally. I can get those thrown on. We're going to take and throw those on there. And I'm going to go run this car. We'll see how that goes. All the names seem made up. It's all bullshit. Gearhead, same axis RPP. Yeah, Gearhead was a brand owned by RPP. Yes, I think they kind of closed it up. Guessing time. The stream. While we still have a good crowd, the numbers are, let's see, numbers are okay. Let's see. I enjoyed the trip down. Okay, we're gonna do like, Nicole's gonna be mad that I'm doing this. I know. We're gonna do one round of Geoguesser, maybe two. So let's see. Let's guess 10 spots. One. So we're going to do USA. We're going to do no move. So we can't go down the street. Can't do anything like that. So there we go. Oh God, it's a Walmart parking lot. Could be anywhere. Liquor store, GameStop, Burger King. Cars are somewhat new. That's a fancy Walmart. Doesn't that look like a Colorado Walmart? How high? Oh, that's high altitude. Look at that. It looks like a ski town. So we're going to set. Did she just text me? Yeah, she did. Okay. We're going to do this one round. We're going to speed round this. This looks high altitude. I'm saying Texas. Washington? Colorado Walmart. I'm saying Colorado. High altitude. Let's say that doesn't look nice enough to be Aspen. Let's actually go like Flagstaff. Where's Flagstaff? Albuquerque. It's got to be in here somewhere. I know Flagstaff is in here somewhere. Or is it before? No, after. Oh wait, Flagstaff's Arizona, not New Mexico. I'm saying Flagstaff, Arizona. Guessing. Ah, Washington. You guys were right. Or somebody was right. May. Climate control. What does this mean? Nice painting. Ooh, rough. Oof. This looks northeast to me. Pacific Northwest. I was thinking northeast. I'm saying Pennsylvania. Roads are fairly narrow. No tree. I'm saying Pennsylvania, somewhere. Western Pennsylvania. Birmingham, Alabama. Someone said Alabama too. I think it's a handicap one. I was thinking if I could. This could be, yikes, damn near anywhere. Oh, God. Georgia? Look at those trees. Those don't look Georgia, do they? Those do not look Georgia. Tennessee. Yeah, I'm thinking Tennessee. Ohio, Tennessee. Yeah, somewhere Somewhere in that area. Let's go Chattanooga. Oklahoma City. Yeah, that could have been anywhere. Old school. This is all older, but that could just be second E. Yeah. No parking during snow emergency. Okay, so we're northern somewhere. Smart car. Somewhere we're up north where people would drive smart cars still. Lack of Subarus, so we're not going to say. It doesn't look blue and yellow. I'm not saying that's Pennsylvania. Blue fire hydrants. Oof. Mass. Okay, let's look up in that area. New York, Massachusetts. We're going to go on the border. There's freaking Ohio. Oh God. Okay, this looks like. Wait, is this Hawaii? These trees Hawaii? Yeah. Right? This is definitely Hawaii. Yeah, we were close. Done. Okay, before Nicole kills me. Appreciate everybody. Have a good Valentine's Day. Thank you for joining me tonight. That's all I got. Love you. Bye.